Some sobering news for anyone thinking of buying a house. Prices in Toronto are now less affordable than they have been since the early 1990s.
Now that is according to a new study from a major Canadian bank. And as Mike Crawley explains, many now fear they'll never be able to afford a house unless there's a crash.
Even though she has a job at a law firm, Yasmin Jafar is daunted by Toronto's house prices.
It means I have to work extremely hard to be able to afford a nice house one day. Yeah. Lots of education and experience and a high-paying job, for sure.
A new study out today shows the typical two-story house in the Greater Toronto Area now costs almost $760,000. To afford it, RBC says you need a household income of nearly $150,000. For the average household, the mortgage on that house would suck up 2/3 of their pre-tax income.
First-time buyers, if they're looking at a home, detached homes are increasingly out of reach.
So unless your family income is much higher than average, owning a condo is the best you can hope for.
What you're seeing increasingly is the condo is becoming both the house of choice as well as the house of affordability, if you will.
So it's clear that right now you cannot afford to buy the average Toronto house on the average Toronto salary. But even if you're managing to make your mortgage payments, there's still something to worry about in the future. What happens when interest rates go up? The study says housing affordability trends look an awful lot like they did in 1990, just before the last big crash.
I hope they're not similar, but we've been hearing for a number of years now that we do have a housing bubble that's going to burst sooner rather than later. And I fear, unfortunately, that we could be heading into that environment again.
And if prices don't crash, the high costs of Toronto homes may simply prompt more and more young people like Yasmin Jafar to flee.
If a house in Toronto is too expensive, then I would move to another city.
The only place in Canada that's less affordable is Vancouver. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.